Shalom and Chag Sameach. Well, we all know it's Pesach. We've survived and thrived the days of cleaning, cooking, staying up late, coming to shul, the stomach aches, and yet we still can't have chametz and we're still eating that pain-instilling matzah. I'd like to analyze for a couple of moments what the matzah represents. We know we call it lechem. We know we say that it's matzah that when we left Egypt, but there's a little more to it, and I'd like to explain. The first time we see matzah in our history is actually when we were slaves in Egypt. That was our staple. That's what the Egyptians gave us to eat. They didn't obviously prepare huge meals for us. We didn't have steak and lamb every single night. Rather, we had matzah. That's what they gave us. It was a low carbohydrate, cheap, and filling meal. That was the first time we saw matzah. The second time we see matzah is at the first Pesach Seder in history. The Jews, when they were commanded to slaughter the lamb, the Korban Pesach, and put its blood on the doorposts, at that point, the Jews were told that they weren't allowed to eat chametz at that meal. Needing bread to make hamotzion, they had matzah. The second time we see matzah is at that transition to freedom, the first Seder on the night of Makas Bechoros, the night of the plague of the firstborn. The third time we see matzah is the one that we're familiar with, is when the Jews were leaving. We know that the Jews weren't just emancipated, they were actually expelled from Egypt. And in the rush to get them to leave, they didn't have enough time to go ahead and to bake bread. The matzah was only allowed to be in the oven, the dough was only allowed to be in the ovens for a couple of moments, and the Jews didn't have enough time to let the dough rise. When they left with matzah. When we eat matzah on Pesach, there's a dual representation to matzah. It's both the food of enslavement, of what that we ate when we were slaves, and it's also the food of emancipation, of freedom, that we ate when we left. It seems a little confusing. How can one object represent two really opposing qualities? The quality of freedom and the quality of enslavement. But really, that's exactly the point of matzah. It's supposed to represent the duality. It's supposed to represent two opposites, because that's what life represents. Life is never single-minded, it's never single-focused, it's never so simple. Life also is a duality. It's usually two opposing forces coming at us that we have to juggle and we have to balance. And that's really what matzah represents. In its duality, matzah represents the duality of life, the challenge of life. This Pesach, let's meet that challenge. Let's be able to balance all the opposing forces in our life. Have a good Pesach. Shalom.